of a man in a wheelchair last week. The incident was videotaped by witnesses and then viewed by scores of people on the internet. The Internal Affairs Division of Metro Police will conduct the investigation. Our Bruce Johnson is standing by live at the U Street Metro station where he talked to the man who ended up in the hospital after what happened during that arrest. Bruce?
Yeah, Anita, that's right. First, let's tell you, Metro says that this guy was out here outside the U Street station and he was drinking alcohol. Now, the man tells us today that he had a cup. There was liquid in the cup. He won't say what it was. It's really none of our business. Metro also says early on that the man resisted arrest and fell out of that wheelchair. Well, the videotape and the man and witnesses say it just doesn't add up. Yeah, man. 55-year-old Dwight Harris looked the part of a man who got the worst of it in a brawl. You can't miss the black eye and stitches.
I'm going to put my prescriptions in right now, and so other than that, you know, what can I say?
Those were his first comments 4 days after being snatched from his wheelchair, tripped, then thrown to the ground by a couple of Metro police officers. The incident took place outside the U Street Metro station, across from the historic Lincoln Theater and Ben's Chili Bowl.
I think the whole thing was very excessive.
Witnesses and people who later viewed the amateur video on the internet did not like what they were seeing.
People in the crowd were saying, please put something against his face so that he can stop bleeding, and they wouldn't even do anything. The attitude of the police officers was very callous.
Metro says Harris was resisting arrest.
No, I'm in a wheelchair, man. I mean, come on. You know, how can I resist arrest?
Well, I think it's a very clear case of overreaction and aggressive arrest.
D.C. Councilman Jim Graham, a former chairman of the Metro Board, wants an investigation into the arrest.
And I have already been in touch with the general manager earlier this morning.
And Metro.
And with the Metro Board members to say something has got to be reviewed here and very fast.
The 55-year-old Dwight Harris says that he's due in court on June 10th to answer to that charge of resisting arrest. Until the arrest, most people only knew him as Mr. Henry. Handicapped for years, he's a common fixture in the U Street corridor.
He passes out express papers over in front of the subway where he was at. He's a nice, pleasant guy.
Again, going back to what Metro had to say about all this early on, they said the two officers were merely trying to write a citation to the subject. Mr. Harris refused to cooperate, and it just went downhill from there. Now, this investigation is expected to take 7 to 10 days. The two officers still on duty. We don't believe they're still assigned to this area. Back to you guys.
Bruce Johnson, thank you for that. Leslie? So here's the question. Did Metro Transit Police go too far in order to arrest Dwight Harris? Well, joining us now is Darcy Cunningham, the director of the Ally Advocacy Center at the Arc of Loudoun. Thanks so much for coming in. Darcy, you've seen this video. You looked at it just a second ago as well. Dwight Harris sort of being taken down out of his wheelchair and being arrested. What's your take on what you saw?
You know, for those of us that work in the community with people with disabilities, it's disturbing, it's saddening, because here's somebody with a physical disability, which is a cue to us, you know. What happens when it's somebody with an intellectual disability where you don't necessarily see the disability right away? You know, we don't for a minute want police to put they're at risk. We understand, I'm the daughter of a police officer, I understand that every single call is one where it could be potentially fatal. But you know, the role of a police officer, they're entrusted in the community, and we need them to use common sense. And it seems like that was a bit excessive.
Metro Police are saying that they observed this gentleman drinking, that they tried to give him a citation, he resisted, that they then told him he was being placed under his arrest, and that what we saw there was him resisting arrest. They seem to be suggesting that this was not a case of excessive force.
You know, I wasn't there. But in watching the tape, you have a man in a wheelchair, which by the very definition, typically people in a wheelchair, there's some physical limitation. You have two police officers standing over him. It didn't look to me like he fell out of the wheelchair. Again, don't want to play Monday morning quarterback, but let's use this as a moment to move forward and, you know, train police officers and those that are going to be first responders in the community to work with people with disabilities, how to best communicate with people with disabilities. We have a whole generation of children coming up that have intellectual disabilities such as autism, and they're in our community. That's here, and we need to learn how to to work with them.
Darcy, I'm sorry, we're having a little bit of trouble with your microphone, but thank you so much for coming in and talking with us today. Obviously, Metro not talking about this as they launch this internal investigation, but they do say that we should hear something at the end of it between 7 and 10 days. Darcy is the director of the Ally Advocacy Center at the Arc of Loudoun. Thanks for joining us again. Anita?